Hello everyone, and welcome back to my channel, Opinions on Stories. Today, I want to talk about something T-Pain recently said about Drake that has stirred up a lot of conversation. At first, what he said might not sound like a big deal to some of you, but I couldn't help but wonder, could there be more behind his words than he's letting on? Keep watching, because I'm going to break down why I believe that's exactly the case. So, on the Crash Dummies podcast, T-Pain brought up Drake and said, one thing I learned from Drake, but one thing he hasn't followed, his own words. Drake said, I want to be one of them people that gracefully bow out and not get kicked out.
I think the one thing I learned from Drake, and here's the crazy thing, one thing I learned from Drake, but one thing he hasn't followed, his own words. Drake said, I want to be one of them people that gracefully bow out and not get kicked out. I have ever since said, you really thank y'all. I appreciate y'all. I'll see y'all when I drop. Don't worry about it. I'll just drop something. Yeah. Let me know if you heard it. Yeah. Drake is like, no, listen. Okay, I got another one. Oh, check this out. Check this out. Y'all didn't like that one? Okay, real quick. Just one more. Let me try one more. And then he's the person that he said, he didn't want to be. And I learned that from him.
Drake caught wind of that and responded on Instagram saying, this guy always had resentment for me. You can hear it every time he speaks on my name. Then Offset chimed in with, hating on another grown man who do more numbers than everybody is diabolical. T-Pain's comments ended up getting a mixed reaction online. Some people defended him, while others called him out. Honestly, I see both sides. I don't think what he said was all that bad to get the amount of backlash it did. But at the same time, I do get why people reacted. Because here's the thing, if Drake doesn't feel it's time to bow out yet, then who is anybody to tell him otherwise? Even if he said something different in the past, he's allowed to change his mind. He can retire whenever he decides it's the right time. Drake is still, even today, the highest selling and most streamed artist after people claimed his career was over because of Kendrick Lamar's Not Like Us. Some of y'all try to downplay that by saying, that's just his old stuff selling. But honestly, I think that's just something people say to make themselves feel better about his continued success. And even if it is his old music doing the numbers, that's still impressive. You mean to tell me that Drake's old songs are still outperforming all the new songs from every other artist right now? That's not a bad thing. That's still a major accomplishment. The only other person who's done that is Michael Jackson. And let's be real, the hype from Not Like Us isn't going to last forever. It's going to fade, just like Pusha T's diss song toward Drake faded. Just like Remy Ma's Sheather diss toward Nicki Minaj eventually faded away. Nicki's still here and still the most successful female rapper. And the same thing is going to happen with Drake. Not Like Us will fade, and he'll still be the most successful artist. If he wants to keep going, he absolutely can, no matter how anyone feels about it. Now, Drake said T-Pain has always had resentment toward him, and I agree with that. The thing is, Drake has never done anything wrong to him. So where is all that bitterness coming from? I believe it's jealousy. T-Pain has been jealous of Drake since the beginning. He's upset that Drake is now in the position he was in back in 2007 or 2008. But the truth is, Drake didn't just replace him, he surpassed him a long time ago. I also think T-Pain resents Drake because he's light-skinned. Whether people want to admit it or not, T-Pain is a huge colorist. He doesn't like dark skin, including his own, and he's jealous of any light-skinned man, especially if they're attractive and get attention from women. And don't be fooled by all the dark-skinned women he puts in his music videos. That's all fake and performative. He only does that to cover up the fact that he's colorist. He doesn't want to be called out, so he tries to keep it hidden. Everything he says and does is about masking who he really is. But I'll leave that there. In fact, I think that's why a lot of black men don't like Drake. They're not going to admit it, but there's jealousy there. These are the same men who love accusing black women of being jealous of light-skinned and mixed women, but they never want to talk about their own jealousy toward other men. Funny how that works. I believe T-Pain feels the same way about Future and Migos. That's probably why Offset spoke up. He knows T-Pain has been taking little shots at Migos for years. He's had enough. And let's talk about projection, because that's exactly what it sounds like T-Pain is doing here. He's talking about gracefully bowing out. But let's be honest, he didn't do that himself. He didn't bow out. He got kicked out. His music stopped selling. He didn't step away from the industry because he was taking Drake's advice from years ago. So right there, that's already a lie. That didn't happen to Drake. So why should Drake stop? I don't care what kind of excuse T-Pain tries to use. It's all lies. He's not as innocent as he tries to make himself seem. I think he's been involved in a lot of shady things behind the scenes that the public doesn't know about. And those things contributed to him being pushed out of the music industry. Now, as far as his excuses for not putting out an album, he gave more of those in that same interview. When asked if he had plans for a new album, he said, "I don't want to. To put all this work in for months on hand and then have somebody judge everything you've done in a year, in one day, in a Friday, is crazy. To have everybody say, yeah, all that stuff you didn't do as much as this other person, so forget you, you suck, your album sucks. Because not enough people bought your stuff in a week. We've done years and years and years of this work, and then your album could be shut down by one meme. And that's just what it is. And I'm not willing to put my mental health at risk for that." Now sure, that sounds deep. It sounds like a thoughtful reason. But to me, it's just more excuses. T-Pain has been promising his fans a new album for years. And for the longest time, he blamed his record label for holding him back. But he's been independent for a long time now, so that excuse doesn't work anymore. Since he won't be real about why he was pushed out of the industry, he can't follow through on that promise. So now he's acting like he just doesn't want to do it anymore. But it's obvious he can't put music out, and he doesn't want to be honest about why. Which is exactly why what he said about Drake comes off as hypocritical, and again, like projection. I saw a comment online that really stood out to me. It said, "Why do so many people want Drake gone so bad?" That's a great question. And in my opinion, it's because there are a lot of people in the industry who can't stand how successful he still is. They're tired of having to compete with him. And as long as he stays active, they'll keep having to compete and they'll keep losing. Unless they're working with him, they don't stand a chance. And even then, they still end up being compared to him, and they hate that. I feel the same way about Nicki Minaj. People want her gone for the same reasons. She's too successful, too dominant, and most of these other female rappers can't compete. The longer she stays, the longer they'll be forced to keep competing, and they're going to keep coming up short. Whether they like the comparison or not, it's going to happen. Now, let me say this clearly. I'm not a Drake fan. I'll probably be reminding y'all of that a lot in my videos, because the second you say anything positive about a celebrity people don't like, here come the "you must be a stan" comments. But truthfully, I was a huge T-Pain fan for well over 10 years. That's how I know how long he's been promising his fans new music. That's also how I know he's been throwing shade at Drake, Migos, and others for years. I followed all of his social media accounts for years. I've watched nearly every interview he's done on YouTube or anywhere else. I've heard him say these things with my own ears. And honestly, I still think T-Pain's music is better than Drake's. So no, I'm not saying any of this because I'm some big Drake fan. Like I always do on this channel, I'm just calling it how I see it. But anyway, that's it for this video. Let me know what you think about this story, or what you think about what I said, in the comments below. I'll leave a link to the full story in the description. If you enjoyed this video, go ahead and hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, and turn on that bell so you'll be notified whenever I upload. Thanks so much for watching.